Hi, I'm Sophie, and I am the perfect main character that always does the right thing, sooner or later. I was a very calm kid. One day, my parents left me alone in a room for a minute, and I fell to the floor. Even though it hurt, I didn't cry. Don't get me wrong, my parents were great, but things changed after my younger brother was born. Rick was such a pain in my butt. If you're an older sibling, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Being an elder sister felt like a curse. Oh no, stop that! Sophie, you should have kept a better eye on him. You're his older sister. One day, Rick decided we needed a lake at home. He grabbed a hose and flooded our living room. Sophie, you're his older sister. How could you let this happen? One day, I agreed to go to the cinema with a friend of mine. But when I was leaving the house, I ran into my parents. It turned out they were going on a date. Sophie, look after your brother. But I have plans too. Cancel them. You're his older sister. Urgh! It was so unfair. When Rick started school, things went from bad to worse. He bullied the other kids and constantly got in trouble. One day, he was playing soccer with his friends and hit the ball right into the principal's office. Unfortunately, I was standing next to Rick at the time. Right before the principal looked outside, Rick quickly shoved the ball into my hands. The principal called my parents and I was punished. At some point, Mom got really into Buddhism and spiritual practices. She was so obsessed with it all, she completely lost touch with reality. I'm feeling high vibrations. That's Rick screaming. Soon after that, Dad joined Mom in her madness, and life became unbearable. Our whole house reeked of incense. I couldn't focus on my homework because Mom turned on guided meditations all the time. My parents even had a guru, or a sensei, Master Yoda? Whatever, there was this Chinese guy who was guiding them. They video called him all the time. We need to move all the furniture. The feng shui here is atrocious. I barely managed to keep my parents out of my room. They were trying to break in through the door like zombies during the apocalypse. This is my room! No one is moving anything here! I must have looked intimidating because my parents quickly gave up. A couple of days later, I ran into my classmate Linda at school. She was so reckless, many people thought she was a wacko. Linda shoved a piece of paper into my hands. I'm inviting everyone at school to my birthday party. There was a time and an address written on the piece of paper. A party on a wild beach? I'd never been to a party like that and had no intention of going now either. But then something made me change my mind. When I got home, I heard loud explosions. I was so scared I flinched. And then I saw Rick, who was setting off fireworks with his friends. These explosions scared our neighbor, old Mrs. Anderson. When Mom and Dad came home from work, she immediately complained to them. I had to take a double dose of calming pills. Sophie, why didn't you stop Rick? You're his older sister. That was the final straw for me, and I snapped. I am, but I have a life too! That evening, I had a huge fight with my parents and decided to go to Linda's party the next day. I was determined to have a good time, for once. I loved cooking and decided to bake a birthday cake for Linda. I even came up with a cool design that matched Linda's personality. Hours later, I put the cake in the fridge. When I came back for it, Rick was eating my cake with his hands. The floor and the refrigerator were covered with cream. What are you doing? It was delicious. You little brat! What's going on here? Sophie, your shouting disrupted my meditation. I spent the whole day baking a cake, but Rick ruined it. You need to stop worrying over the little things if you ever want to achieve a Zen state of mind. I was left speechless. Furious, I ran outside and slammed the door. Don't forget to wash the refrigerator. Oh, I was about to explode like a pressure cooker. After calming down a little, I bought a cake and came to the beach. There was an old liner at the abandoned pier. It was a miracle it hadn't sunk yet. Linda and her friends had built a huge bonfire and were sitting around it. I felt a bit awkward when I noticed none of my other classmates came. Sophie? What a surprise! You're usually such a goody two-shoes. Happy birthday. Well, you passed face control. Someone turned on the music and everyone started dancing. The other kids looked like misfits and I felt out of place. But at some point, a guy came up to me. He was gorgeous. Hi, are you Sophie? Yeah, I'm Daniel, but my friends call me Dan. We got to talking and I felt more confident by the minute. Soon, Dan asked me to dance. Why had I never come to such parties before? Soon, Linda suggested we sneak into the abandoned liner. It was dark by then and a storm had rolled in. I boarded the liner with Dan. We turned on the flashlights on our phones and looked into the cabins. It felt like I was in a horror movie. My heart was pounding. It was terrifying, but exciting too. I turned around the corner and a shadow suddenly pounced on me with a loud scream. Ah! You almost gave me a heart attack, you psycho! Come on, it was fun! We wandered around the liner for a while, and then Linda suggested we jump off it into the water. It's my birthday and I want everyone to go for a swim. I didn't want to do it, especially in such terrible weather. Are you scared? I didn't want to look like a coward. Dan was watching. Let's go together? He took my hand and we jumped into the sea. Soon we climbed out onto shore and came back to the bonfire. My clothes were soaking wet, so Linda gave me her spare bomber jacket. You can keep it. Dan walked me home. When my parents saw me, their jaws dropped. What are you wearing? You look like a ruffian. Sophie, aren't you ashamed of yourself? Look, you upset Mom and Dad. You are all, I went up to my room and ignored my parents all evening. When I came to school the next day, Linda suggested we get out of there and skip classes. I'd never done that before, but I was tired of being a good girl. My parents thought I was a disappointment. They had a big storm coming. I spent the day wandering around the city with Linda and her friends. It made me feel free. I could finally do whatever I wanted. We snuck into abandoned buildings and then went shopping to a mall. Wow, it suits you. I kept skipping school and hanging out with my new friends. The more time I spent with them, the more I liked Dan. He always walked me home and soon he asked me out on a date. It was the most romantic evening of my life. Dan brought me to a pottery class. His friend worked there. We made a clay vase and then ate pizza on an outdoor terrace. Things at home were bad though. My parents and I were always fighting. One day, Mom made me meditate with her. Take a deep breath and feel the energy fill you. I tried to relax, but it didn't work. Do you feel it? All I feel is dizzy. The freaking incense is driving me up the wall. I knew you had a low energy level. Mom pissed me off again. I didn't want to get into yet another shouting match with her and just went to my room. One day, I was coming home when I saw Rick. He was with his friends as usual. They stole a bag from an old woman. Can you believe it? Stop right there! I caught up to Rick, snatched the bag out of his hands and returned it to the old lady. You're going to regret this! Dan walked me home as usual. When we arrived, my parents were waiting for us on the porch. Rick told us everything. Our daughter is a thief. You crossed a line. What? Rick stole that bag. I just returned it. Not just a thief, but also a liar. It turned out Rick had lied to them about Dan, too. He told them my boyfriend was a criminal. Dan is not a criminal. We're not even together. I don't want to hear it. You can't see him anymore. I forbid it. While we were fighting, Rick was giggling nastily. How could that little monster be my brother? I was so furious with my parents, I didn't talk to them for several days. And then Linda came up with an idea. Let's throw a secret party at school. It was a crazy idea. Of course, everyone loved it. We waited until it got dark, snuck into school and found an empty classroom and let loose. I wanted to forget about my parents and just have fun. At some point, Dan and I went into the hallway. Before I knew it, he was standing really close. Dan gently touched my hair and then leaned in. Was he going to kiss me? My heart was racing. There you are! Get in here! I was relieved and disappointed at the same time. Linda ruined the moment. The party only ended when the sun was about to rise. I got tired and sat down to take a break. I thought I'd only close my eyes for a moment, but then I fell asleep. Someone's touch woke me up. Linda was standing next to me. The party was over. Everyone was getting ready to leave. For some reason, Dan was nowhere to be seen. All of a sudden, we heard loud footsteps in the hallway. It was the security guard! Scatter! We ran out of the classroom and hurried to the stairs. I almost reached the door, but then Linda pushed me. Hey! It was enough for the guard to catch up to me. Everyone else managed to escape. I was held at school until the morning, and then the guard brought me to the principal's office and called my parents. The worst part was that they brought Rick along. That bastard was making faces at me when no one could see it. Your daughter threw a party at school in the middle of the night. Of course, my parents didn't bother to find out the details and immediately started scolding me. It was so unfair, I actually felt hot from anger. I took off the bomber jacket and what the heck is that? There was a QR code tattooed to my back. While everyone was still frozen in shock, Rick pointed his phone camera at the code. A few seconds later, we saw photos of me jumping into the sea from the liner, sneaking into abandoned buildings, and even standing in a hallway next to Dan. I wanted to sink through the floor. The tattoo turned out to be temporary, but my parents didn't care. Let's all take a deep breath and reach a zen state of mind, okay? Naturally, they didn't listen to me. They dragged me to our car, drove me home, and sent me to my room. You're grounded! When I was finally left alone, I thought about everything that happened. Linda had woken me up. She must have been the one to give me that tattoo. But why? And why did she push me when we were running away? I decided to call her and get to the bottom of it. You're an excellent student, so I knew you wouldn't be punished. Unlike you, I'm on thin ice. Linda said the tattoo was just a harmless prank. She apparently wanted it to remind me of the best moments of the past few days. Of course, I didn't believe her. She just wanted to set me up and have a good laugh. Then Linda accidentally turned on her camera, and I saw she was with her friends on the beach. Dan was dancing behind her without a worry in the world. He was in on it! I hung up and cried into my pillow for an hour. Those traitors are going straight to my blacklist. My parents came into my room late at night. You're out of control. We've decided to send you to our friends in China. We hope they will be able to set you on the right path. Of course, I thought my parents were joking, but then I realized they actually lost it. In a few days, I found myself in a small Chinese town. I couldn't believe it was really happening. You will never believe where they sent me. Yeah, your eyes aren't deceiving you. I was in a Buddhist temple. When I came up to the gate, an elderly man came out to meet me. I recognized him right away. Master Yoda. That is, Master Li was in charge of the temple. I thought he was a total fraud. You managed to fool my parents, but your tricks won't work with me. If you were trying to offend me, you didn't succeed. Master Li let me in and showed me the temple grounds. He said that every morning, everyone who was staying there meditated together and then helped around the temple. May will help you. I was wary of May too, but she turned out to be nice and friendly. She was my roommate. Did your parents send you here too? I lost them when I was very young. Master Li took me in and raised me as his own daughter in the temple. To my surprise, it seemed May really liked living here. She woke me up super early the next morning. We should go meditate and then work in the garden. There was no way I was doing any of that. While everyone was meditating, I put on headphones and turned away. And while May was working in the garden, I sat by the pond and defiantly filed my nails. I thought May would complain to Master Li, but she didn't say anything. She didn't even snap at me. Can you imagine? The next day, a martial arts practice was held at the temple. I'd never liked sports, so I didn't take part in it. No one paid any attention to me, and soon I got bored. Would everyone just keep ignoring me? One day, small children came to the temple. May tutored them and taught them to read. When they started doing math, I couldn't help but join them. You're so pretty and so smart. Unlike my brother, those children were very sweet. I taught them how to count. Then May and I went to the kitchen. We were asked to cook dinner, and the children wanted to help us. I got an idea. What if we made dessert? Go for it. You can use whatever you find in the kitchen. We used the recipe for the cake Rick had eaten several days ago. It was so delicious, even Master Li praised me. From that day on, everything changed. I started participating in different activities at the temple and even learned a couple of martial arts techniques. One day, I sat with May by the pond. She turned on beautiful music and we admired the water lilies flowing on the water. Soon, I relaxed. How are you feeling? Very calm? That's meditation for you. Everyone has their own way of reaching this state. That evening, Master Li invited me to his place. We drank Chinese tea and talked. At some point, he brought up my parents. I know you've been going through a rough patch, but your mom and dad love you. They love my brother more. I'm just a babysitter for them. That's not true. Your parents are not perfect and make mistakes, but that doesn't mean they don't care about you. Actually, I've done a lot of dumb stuff lately too. No one is perfect, but uniqueness is born from imperfections. I felt a little better after our talk. I had been wrong about Master Li. He turned out to be a good and wise man. Standing by my favorite pond, I looked at the calm water. At that moment, I realized that I was no longer mad at my parents. When it was time to leave, I said goodbye to May. We agreed to keep in touch. Mom and Dad met me at the airport. They looked worried and miserable. Sweetie, we are so sorry. We should have listened to you ages ago. While I was gone, Rick got into trouble again. I used to deal with his problems, but now my parents had no choice but to step up. A policeman dragged him home the other day. Rick stole a wallet. We decided to send him to a private school with very strict rules for a while. I made up with my parents and life went back to normal. I went back to wearing my usual clothes and stopped skipping classes. Would you look at that? Sophie is a good girl again. She made fun of me in front of everyone, but I didn't care. Had I finally achieved Zen? But when Linda tried to push me, I used a trick I learned at the temple. Yay! Ouch! A word of advice, don't mess with me anymore. When I got home, I saw Dan by our house. What are you doing here? We need to talk. Dan told me he hadn't set me up and hadn't known what happened that day. When I had fallen asleep at the party, his mom had called him. She wasn't feeling well, so Dan immediately went home. I asked Linda to tell you, but I guess she didn't. She has a crush on me, so she got mad and tried to break us up. I'd blocked Dan's number and then gone to China, so he couldn't contact me. In the end, we made up. Dan walked into the house with me and I introduced him to my parents. Dan and I became an item. Rick is still at the private school. He's not a huge jerk anymore. May calls me often. She's going to visit me on summer holidays. My parents and I are finally getting along. Family is important. Do you agree?